All right, so you're thinking about switching gears, huh? A career in vehicle rentals. Interesting. You've sent over some really cool stuff from RoleCatcher, and, well, we're going to take a deep dive into what it takes to be a vehicle rental agent.
Yeah, it's one of those jobs that often flies under the radar, but trust me, there's a lot more to it than most people think.
Okay, so before we really get into it, when you picture a vehicle rental agent, what comes to mind? Just someone stuck behind a desk drowning in paperwork?
Right. I mean, that's the usual image, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. But the role catcher guide actually paints a much more uh, dynamic picture, I'd say.
Yeah, it really stresses that customer interaction side of things, like representing a company and making sure those customers have a good experience.
Yeah, it's all about walking people through that whole rental process,
Yeah.
answering questions, addressing concerns. Uh, you're the face of the company, not just like a key dispenser.
And get this, the guide even mentions you might have to travel between different rental locations as part of the job.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us into those pros and cons that they outline. Flexible hours and, get this, potential for commission-based earnings. Those are pretty big perks.
Whoa, hold on, commission. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's like injecting a bit of, that entrepreneurial spirit into the role. The better you do, the more you can earn. But of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are downsides too, like dealing with, those difficult customers. It comes with the territory, pretty much any customer-facing role. And the guide doesn't shy away from that.
Right, long hours probably come with the territory too, and I imagine the competition is pretty fierce, yeah.
You got it. It's a growing industry, vehicle rentals. But that also means it's getting more and more competitive. So, setting yourself apart is key. And this is where specialization comes in, which I found super interesting.
Oh, really? Because, I mean, I thought it was pretty straightforward, right? You rent cars? What other specializations are we even talking about?
Well, you can actually focus on specific types of rentals. Like, you could become the go-to person for, let's say, luxury cars or even RVs. Imagine that, being the expert on high-end rentals. Pretty cool, huh?
Oh, yeah, that's a niche I definitely wouldn't have thought of. So you could build a whole reputation around a very specific kind of vehicle.
Exactly. And the guide highlights how that specialization, whether it's by vehicle type or even a certain skill set, it can really boost your value in the job market.
Okay, so let's say someone's just starting out. What's that typical career path look like in this industry? Like, can you climb the ladder or are you kind of stuck as an agent forever?
Not at all. The guide actually lays out a pretty clear progression. You start as a vehicle rental agent, then you can move up to a senior agent, then supervisor, and eventually even rental manager. And each step comes with, more and more responsibility.
So you could go from handling those day-to-day rentals to overseeing a whole branch. That's pretty impressive.
It is. And I think it really speaks to, the potential that exists within this job that might seem, on the surface, simple. But now here's where it gets really interesting. Remember how we were talking about that competitive job market? Well, RoleCatcher really emphasizes how AI is becoming a huge player in that whole hiring process.
Yeah, and I gotta say, that whole thing is a little intimidating, to be honest. It's like a computer's deciding your fate, not a real person.
It can definitely feel like that, but RoleCatcher actually wants to help you work with AI.
Yeah.
Not against it, right? And to do that, they've developed this tool called RoleCatcher.Capture.
Okay, now I'm listening. How's that work?
So it basically lets you save job postings from all different websites. Think of it like a supercharged bookmarking tool almost. But here's where it gets really cool. RoleCatcher.Capture, it analyzes that job description, and then it tells you which version of your resume, like which one you've tailored to different industries or whatever, is the strongest for that specific role.
Wow, no way, really. So, like, if I've tweaked my resume, for different fields and stuff, it can actually tell me which one's got the best shot at getting past that whole, like, AI gatekeeper thing for each specific job.
Yep. That's the idea. It's like having a, I don't know, a secret weapon or something for the whole digital job hunt thing. So instead of just like blasting out a generic resume and hoping for the best, you're using AI to your advantage, putting your best foot forward every single time.
Okay, that's pretty incredible. But it makes sense though, right? Using their insights, I mean, to help you actually land that interview in the first place. But let's say you nailed the interview, right? What are some of those like must-have skills that someone would need to really, really thrive as a vehicle rental agent?
You know, that's such a good question. And the guide actually talks about this, about needing a mix of like those hard skills and those soft skills. So on the practical side, being organized, being detail oriented, that's huge. I mean, think about it. Processing paperwork, handling payments, managing all those reservations, and making sure everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, you basically have to be like a master of logistics, right? Keeping those plates spinning, making sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Exactly. But like I said, it's not all just paperwork and spreadsheets and stuff. We talked about that whole customer interaction piece, right? That's where those top-notch communication skills, those people skills,
Yeah.
really come into play.
Oh, for sure. You got to be able to like clearly explain those rental agreements, answer a million questions, and probably with a smile on your face, right? And maybe even, talk someone off the ledge when their flight's delayed or something.
It's all part of the job. The guide actually mentions, like, salesmanship being a valuable skill, too, especially if you can, upsell those extra services like insurance and stuff. They actually tell this really interesting story about this top-performing agent, right? He realized most of his customers renting minivans, for those family trips, their biggest fear was getting lost. So he started, like, pre-selling GPS units as, like, peace of mind for the parents,
Sure.
right? His sales went through the roof.
Oh, that's brilliant. Like he really tapped into their needs and just offered them a solution. It really does seem like this job, you're wearing all these different hats: administrator, salesperson, customer service guru, and I don't know, even a therapist sometimes maybe.
That's a great way to put it. You got to be versatile, you
No,
got to be adaptable, and you really do need that genuine desire to help people. I think that's essential in this line of work.
absolutely. Okay, so we've established that this is so much more than just handing over car keys, right? There's a lot to it. But let's talk about that career progression thing for a minute. Let's say someone, they land the job, they're in. What does like continuous learning and development, what's that look like in this kind of field?
This is where it gets really interesting because the vehicle rental industry, it's constantly changing and evolving. New tech, new car models, those customer expectations are always shifting. And the guide, it really emphasizes how important it is to stay ahead of all that.
Right. So it's not enough to just like know the ins and outs of a rental agreement, right?
Yeah.
You got to keep up with all those trends, new car features. I'm
Yeah.
guessing like electric vehicles, that's got to be a huge part of it now. Yeah.
Totally. The guide actually suggests, like, joining some of those industry associations, maybe attending workshops, subscribing to trade publications, all that stuff to kind of stay in the loop. Think about it, with electric vehicles becoming more popular, understanding their quirks, like their features, their charging needs, range limitations, all that. That's crucial for, actually being able to help those customers out.
It's almost like you're not even just picking a career at that point. It's like you're signing up for this like constant journey of learning and discovery.
I love that. And speaking of journeys, remember how we were talking about, like, that human element of this job? It's easy to get bogged down by all the logistics, the technology, all that stuff. But really, at the heart of it, it's about connecting with people, even if it's just for, a short amount of time.
Totally. Like you're helping them get from point A to point B, right? Whether it's a family vacation they've been looking forward to, an important business trip, or even just like a spur of the moment weekend getaway. And that little bit of like personal touch, it can make a world of difference. I still remember this one time I was on a road trip a few years back, and the rental car agent, he gave me like the best restaurant recommendations. Totally changed the whole trip just from that.
There you go. And that's what makes this job, I think, so much more than just a job. You get to be even just a small part of people's stories, and that can be incredibly rewarding.
It's true. You really are like literally handing them the keys to an adventure.
And that actually makes me think about something as you're thinking about this whole career path. Consider the kinds of experiences you actually want to be a part of. Like, what kind of impact do you want to make, even in those, those short interactions you have with people?
That's a really good point to consider. It's not just, oh, I'm renting a car. It's, I'm part of this whole bigger journey.
Exactly. And the RoleCatcher guide, they actually talk about this too, about how this job and so many others really, they're being reshaped by, well, technology. And they're really big on how AI can actually be this powerful tool for, like, professional growth.
It's kind of like we were talking about earlier with that, what was it called? That RoleCatcher capture tool, right? Like you're not just, shying away from AI, you're learning to use it to your advantage.
Exactly. It's about being adaptable, staying informed.
Yeah.
And I think, this deep dive has really shown that the world of vehicle rentals, it's way more dynamic than it might seem at first glance.
100%. I mean, we've uncovered some pretty unexpected things. Like I never would have thought about specializing in luxury car rentals or, using AI to navigate that whole job hunting process. There's definitely a lot more to being a vehicle rental agent than meets the eye.
It really is a career path with a surprising amount of potential, especially for those who are, you know, ready to embrace those challenges and, of course, those rewards that come with it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, to everyone listening, if you're thinking about a change of pace, maybe a little drive towards something new, well, maybe the open road is calling your name.
And remember, every journey, no matter how long, it always starts with a single step, or in this case, maybe a single rental agreement.
I love it. And there you have it, another deep dive, successfully navigated. We hope this has given you some serious food for thought. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep those career dreams alive.